Okay, I think we're up to day 4 of the Botanical Challenge. So let's get a page and do this one right here. Okay, red, dead nettle. It's just a leaf. That's what we're painting today. So let's spray our paints, get that going, and then let's look at our shape. We have a red, dead nettle. I think I was gonna draw, but I think I'm gonna freehand this. There's some greens, some purples, maybe a little bit of browns or something. So I think we could maybe at least start with those 3 colors. Let's get to it. Okay, color matching. This will be fun. I'm gonna first start with a phthalo green blue. Even though this does not look like anything in nature, it's giving the red dead nettle that I saw is giving those vibes. We're gonna tone this down a little bit with some yellow. And that doesn't tone it down. We are gonna tone it down. I wanna bring some of that blue back. Okay, that looks good. Where's my testing strips? Let's test this. Yeah, that's fine. There's obviously different variations of that color, but that's a good base. And then this purple. Okay, I think this is good. And then we're gonna add some yellow too, because I saw some yellow in there. So these are gonna be what we're primarily gonna use, these 3 colors. So that was our color mixing. Now we are ready to do the shapes, and we're gonna freehand this. So, and it's nature, so it's not gonna be perfect. This is so strange. Okay. Bump, 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 bump. Okay. Now another leaf is right here. I am loosely doing the shapes of the individual leaves that I see rather than the whole shape. This helps me get a little oriented more. Some people approach it by just taking the whole shape, like the whole outside. And sometimes I do that with a big bouquet of flowers, but I'm gonna go leaf by leaf here. Again, this is just the first round, meaning the first layer, I should say. So we have time to, we'll call it correct what we did. Okay. There's that. This is such an interesting shape. Okay, and then we have up here another leaf, and then over here another leaf. We will not add the purple yet because I want to do a couple fun things using a tool that I have played with a couple times, that we can kind of scratch some veins while it's still a little bit wet. There's the main one. And then we're just going to make a whole bunch of other marks. I am not following any pattern on this because there's no way I'd be able to match it. So it's just going to look like this for now. It's a suggestion of the lines just to give it some interest. There we go. I'm moving relatively quickly here because these are all just really scratchy. Why do I do this when it's wet? Well, it in essence is damaging the paper, which is what you want, so that the color can concentrate there. Like it's like roughing it up a little bit, and then the pooling happens. So you can see we're actually creating darker values of the watercolor where I scratched, which is just a cool little trick. And you can use any tool. I just happen to have this fancy one. I'm sure you could use the end of a paintbrush, which I've used before. Any pointy thing I would say would work. I'm just at my workstation and happened to see this and thought that would make a nice addition. Okay, cool. So this is our first layer. Yay! I'll remind you of what the reference looks like. Boom, red dead nettle. Let's let this dry and then do our second layer. Okay, we're dry. I brought this more into focus so you could have a reference for what I'm attempting to copy. We are now going to work on these purple leaves, and they are just little flicks. They're kind of in between, popping out. Didn't get a really dark purple here, so I'm going to embellish a little bit because I want to see more purple. And I want it to be a little darker, so I'm going to push that a little bit. It's not going to look like the picture, but that's my interpretation. So there. Okay, I realized where the heck is my brush? Oh, here it is. I didn't do this top leaf here, so we're gonna attempt to try that now. It's a very strange angle. So I'm just gonna do like a C cup, like a C on its side for that. And then I'm gonna bring in some burnt sienna, because that's what I see. It's like a stick right there. And then that little blossom on top, which I'm gonna fill in with yellow. Okay, so now that we have our first layer, like I said, this is dry. I'm going to wet this whole thing again with clean water, if you have it. Now that we have the basic shape, we can think about where do we want the shadows and the colors and all that other stuff to be. So I'm going to be pretty aggressive with the shadows right here because this leaf is on top of that. So it would, in my head, be casting a shadow right there. So we're just going to imagine that that's right there. And we're just going to leave that. This leaf right here, when you're doing a second layer, you want to make sure that you get it fully covered so you don't get all these different drying lines. So just do your best. We're going to do some dark right here. Like I said, I'm imagining this leaf is kind of casting over right here. So there's that. And then up here, gotta be very careful. These purple leaves are still wet, so if I touch any of those, it's gonna be a problem, meaning I'm gonna have some bleeding. And in the picture, I see the shadows more like right here. So almost like it's tilted, like curved up. And then I noticed some yellow right here that I want to accentuate. So I'm going to put that right there. Okay, and then let's do this leaf. Okay, and there's like some darkness right there, which I think is supposed to be like it's folded over. So I'll give the suggestion of that folding. Okay. Let's see. I think that's good. We're gonna have to wait for this to dry. I need to do a second layer on this too. We're gonna have to wait for this to dry for us to fill in all the the background stuff. And just like with the yew tree, we made the decision to start with the berries first. I made this decision to start with the leaves first and not that kind of background filler. You could have started with all this background first and then painted on top. It's really all about kind of looking at the picture and making choices right away in the beginning that fit kind of what your approach will be. No approach is wrong per se. It's just you make the decision on the order of operations and then follow it. If it makes sense in your brain, cool. Pushing this down a little bit because I don't want it to be such a hard stop. Okay. Let's see. Just adding some more pigment here because I really want to show some contrast in these colors. Problem with this picture is, I mean, it's just a leaf, so it's not necessarily, oh my gosh, this is super interesting to look at. You have to kind of make it up, the interest in your, head. Now I'm doing this background area right here, which is fuzzy something or other. I'm gonna do one layer and then I'm gonna layer on top. Same with here. Kind of these fuzzy little something or others that kind of live underneath here and connect the plant. There we go. Let me see there. It looks like a leaf is going on right there. So we'll do that. Okay, cool. So let's let that dry and we'll do our then third coat. So we're on the final stretch, just adding some finishing touches to this painting. And I'm gonna get in with a smaller brush. Right here and right here, if you kind of squint your eyes a little bit, is reading very dark. And we've talked about depth and contrast before, so we really want to get into here and let the viewer understand that This is in fact a shadow area. This is behind the leaves. And that's why we want to make it so dark. Leave some green in there, but otherwise, I mean, this is indigo and Payne's gray I'm using here. So, okay. And then up here we have this shadow getting in there. And I'm using a fine liner here only because I want to still have some, I don't want it to just be a big blob. I want it to show like there's some of that fuzzy stuff still, but it's in the shadows. So that's why it's so fine. And obviously this is a smaller area, so you want to be able to get in those finer areas with that. So that's that. As you can see by doing this, we're already adding some nice contrast, which works really good here. I'm just gonna fluff that out. I'm gonna put some up here. And let's see what else we need. We're gonna step back in 1 second and make sure there's nothing else needed. Okay, that looks good, that looks good. There's something right here, like a kind of a darker line right there. Okay, and then, actually I don't like that. Okay, there's that, and then I think right here could use a little bit more definition, so we're gonna go back in with that burnt sienna and finalize that kind of, whatever that is, I don't know. This is kind of the shoot that comes up. And give that some more definition. Okay, I think we are good. Yay, this is looking really fun. Who'd have thought I would be painting a red dead nettle? Didn't even know it existed, and now here we are. Look at that, painting it. Okay, that's final.